Close the doors of your mind from all carnal will, all carnal thought, all emotions, all desires, all fears, all the powers of Mastama. It may try to hold one's thoughts down and hold one's consciousness down in the 7 eyes and the 7 ears in the center of their mind, in your frontal lobe, in your 12 cranial nerves, in your hands and your feet that go all the way from your mind to your feet. Allow your thoughts and your mind to come to balance within oneself, within one's being, within one's inner thought, within one's inner being. And allow the knowledge of Yahushua Mashiach to reign inside of your mind and pump throughout your body, from your inward man to your outer man. For today is a day of freedom. Today is a day that Yahuwah has given to us as another Yum, as a gift. Even as he gave his son as a gift. For he gave his son to be offered for us, that we may inherit a Barak through Yahushua Mashiach and his blood that he shed for us. That we may have right to the tree of life where we continue to the end and keep his commands to the end. And to walk in love and compassion and kindness, extreme love for all people and all creatures of the earth, within ourselves and for the people around us. That we no longer live according to our old man and our old life and our old ways and our demonic ways and our demonic thoughts and our demonic understanding in our inner being and obeying them, but putting them under our feet through his knowledge and understanding, that we no longer walk according to our old man. So this Yom we acknowledge the one who made all the horror of the earth, the Nahar of the earth, the rivers and streams above the earth and under the earth, the one who rules the highest Shamayim above the Shabai Shamayim, above the 7 heavens, who sits in his throne above the 13th Shamayim with his Ben Yahusha at his sapphire throne on his left, and all people at the bottom of his feet, immersed in water. As we live not according to our old man, but according to our new life. And the new life is in Yahushua Mashiach and his blood that he shed, and remove all leaven from our houses and to keep it out of our house every single day. That the illumination of life and understanding in the light of life, the ore, the strength joined to the mind, may be illuminated inside of your mind. That your iron may be fulfilled. That your life may be fulfilled. That when you go in as a seed, even as Yahushua did, the day before, the first day of Chag Matsah, you may rise from the grave yourself. And your thoughts may be rise from the grave, and that your thoughts may be illuminated within your inner man and your inner being, and no longer walk into your old self. So as we move forward in kindness, ahab, joy, peace, patience, meekness, gentleness, and self-control. Self-control is what we desire. He says, but your gentleness and your faithfulness within ourselves needs to be illuminated continually. So as we move forward in this understanding. Right, so this is the book of Psalms, Tahalim. This is the book of Psalms, Tahalim, chapter 55, verse 12. Psalm chapter 55, verse 12. Right? It says right here, verse 10, let's go. Day and night, they go around it, on its walls. Right? And iniquity and trouble are within it. Right? Just go up to verse 5. Verse 5. It says, fear and trembling has come upon me, and horror overwhelms me. When does that happen? We see they make horror movies at night, right? Just like Yahushua was 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. That's darkness. And get what he says. I say, oh, that I had wings like a dove. He said, oh, I had what? Like I had wings like a dove. Kanaf. And I would fly away and be at rest. He said, then I would fly away and be at rest. You get what it says? Yes, I would wander far away, and I would lodge in the wilderness, Selah. I would hurry and find shelter from the raging winds and the tempest, from these storms. But it says, destroy, O Yahuwah, divide their tongues, for I see violence and strife in the city. He said, it's building up. Why? Just like we see, he said, I see strife in the city. Why? Because his 7 eyes are open. He said, I can see it. It's in my near. I can see it. Because I ain't looking at things how you look. And get what it says. There's strife in the city. Day and night they go around on its walls. And iniquity and trouble are within it. That's all they do. And get what it says. Ruin is in the midst. Oppression and fraud. That's why they're doing it. He said, why? Because oppression and fraud is in it. That's the only reason. Oppression. Do not depart from its, oppression and fraud do not depart from its marketplace. It's still there. That's the only reason that they continue to do it. because it's still fraud and it's oppression and it's still in their marketplace. It's, they're selling it. You know how you gotta go to the food in the marketplace in the store, and then you go in the marketplace and you see all the food in there, you be like, this is all that's here? This all that's here? This all the spiritual food that's out here? He says, it will not depart in the marketplace. He said, I don't want to eat that. And he said right here, for it is not an enemy who taunts me. He's like, look at here. It's not an enemy who doing this. Like you be like, oh, that's an enemy. He said, it's not an enemy who taunts me. Then I could bear it. He said, I could bear it. I could bear an enemy who taunts me. Just like Yahushua bore our sins on the cross, and he was able to bear our iniquity. He was able to hold it all in, and he was able to state, Father, forgive me, for they know not what they do. He was able to do it. But he said, it is not an adversary who deals insolently with me. It's not an adversary, right? Then I could hide from him. He said, I could hide from these people. He said, I could do it. But it is you, a man, my equal, my companion, my familiar friend, he said, somebody people I used to know. He said, I used to know you. He said, we used to take sweet counsel together. We used to do it. Within Yahuwah's house. We walked in the throne. We did that. And guess what he says? You know why he said that? He said, we used to do that. Anyway, Yahushua did, he said, he spoke these words while he's sitting in the house, walked by, we lie down and rise up. When he went from one place to another place, even when he walked by the way, when he saw people, and he said, Master, and the leper, he healed the lepers. He did all these things. He healed the blind man, 10 blind, only one came back. He said, guess what he said? Let death steal over them. Why do you think Yahushua had to die? Why do you think he had to lay down his life? Because he had people doing this to him. He says, let them go to Sheol alive. He said, let them go to Sheol alive. Isn't that what happened to Korah? Right? He said, let them go to Sheol alive. For evil is in their dwelling place and in their heart. He says, evil in their dwelling place in their heart. That's in their body, in their house. Like we ain't supposed to have no leaven in our house from the first day all the way to the 7th day. He says, in your heart. He told us to give praise to Yahuwah from our heart. And he said right here, but I call to Yahuwah, Elohim, I call to Elohim, and Yahuwah will save me. Here we go. Evening, morning, and at noon, I utter my complaint and moan, and he hears my voice. He said, evening, morning, and noon. He said, I utter my complaint out of my mouth. Why? Because when you pray, evening, morning, and noon. Why? Because you're learning evening and morning. You learn that from the beginning, and then you learn the noontime is the lunchtime. You know, like lunchtime where people want to eat. It's lunchtime. Like they say, lunch. And then what he says, and I utter my complaint and moan, and he hears my voice. He redeems my soul in safety from the battle that I wage, for many are arrayed against me. But this is what I'm going to get to. He said, many are arrayed. He said, that's how you know. And get what it says, Elohim will give ear to and humble them. How he gonna? Why is he going to give ear and listen and humble them? Because to this man will I look. Him who of a poor and contrite heart, who trembles at my debar. He said, man or woman. He said, that's why I want to get them to that humble state. So they can actually build me a house. Because you can't build Yahuwah's house with oppression and fraud and strife. You can't. That's why he told David, he said, you're not going to build my house, for you are a man of what? Of war. He said, you can't build my house. He said, your son going to build my house. Because his name is Shalom. Behold, peace. You can't. That's why you think he told the woman when he was at his feet, he said, go in peace. Because that's the only way you're going to build a house. You can't build a house like with that. You can't. You can't do it. And it says right here, he says right here, and why did he say let death steal over him? You know why it says let death? For the wages of sin is death. Because he had to make you go fall down to the ground. And it says right here, he redeems my soul in safety from the battle that I wage. For many are arrayed against me, Elohim will give ear and humble them. He who is enthroned from of old, Selah, because they do not change. because they do not change. He said they refuse to change. Just, you know how when the sun comes, you know the trees, they be bare. They don't have no leaves on it. They don't have nothing. But when the sun starts to come back to the ecliptic plane, it gets hot. Then you see the trees turn from white to purple. Then they bear green leaves. Then they go back to red. All these take place. They change. They don't stay the same. And that's the same thing when it comes to us. You shouldn't stay the same because every year you should be changing. And then when you get every year, you treat it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It shouldn't stay the same. He said, oh, a person, if you see a person, they got purple, then guess what? Eventually it's going to change to another color. Then another color. Then another color. And then one day it may change to the actual color that you want to see. Matter of fact, it may even change to the very thing that you want to see, you want to hear. Out of your mouth. You just got to be patient. Just like a tree is patient to grow, you got to be the same way with people. You got to be the same way with a man or a woman, a mother, a father, a sister, a brother, acquaintance, a friend. You got to be the same way. He said, I want you to change. You be like, you're going to have to wait. It says, because they do not change and do not fear Yahuwah. That's the reason why. Because they won't change and then fear Yahuwah and then change. It says, my companion stretched out his hand against his friends. He violated his covenant. You know why he said that? Just like Jonathan and David did a covenant, just like a husband and wife vow a covenant, or a man draws a covenant, or you make an agreement or a deal. And guess what happened? He violated his covenant. He said, you made a covenant, a berith, and then you violated it. And then people say, huh? You know why? Because they say they refuse to change. Right? His speech was smooth as butter. Right? Here we go. Smooth. His speech was smooth as butter. Right? So Psalms 55 and 21, that word for smooth. Psalms 55 and 21, that word for smooth. Psalms 55. Here we go. Psalms 55 and 21. Psalms 55 and 21, that word for smooth is the words of his mouth were smoother than butter. That word for smoother is Qahalath, right? It means Qahalath. It means as smooth as stones. It means in proportion to divide, to flatter, to partner. It means to flatter, to separate. To separate. It's like a toph when he tried to separate you from your husband or your wife. That's what a toph does. That's what demon Ataf does. That's what Asmodeus does. That's what Asmodee does. It says Qahalath. It says smooth as butter, like Leviathan, right? And he separate. Separate what? He says smooth as butter. That word for butter is makamah. Makamah. It means flattery. He was flattery. He just so flattering, buttery. You know how you say butter love? He give me that butter love, like flattery lips. Why? Because that's the only way he gonna sway you. He said he was smooth as flattery as butter, but war, kareb, it means hostile, hostility, was in his heart. You know, we talked about yesterday, you're supposed to get praise from your heart. But he said, look what's in your heart though. He said, war is in your heart. His words were softer. He said it was soft too. Rakak. It was soft and tender. Real talk. That's the word for softer. Softer than oil, or he say softer than butter. His words were softer than oil. They were drawn swords. He said, man, this thing cut me to the heart. People say, oh, you gotta, nah, if you just speak to the bar, it'll be soft as butter. It'll still cut people. It'll still cut people. He said it was softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords. Right? That word for swords is petika. He said it was drawn swords. He said it was drawn swords. He said it was smoother than butter though. But it was drawn swords, right? So this is a book of 2 Kings. 2 Kings. Sorry. 2 Kings chapter, I think 18. 2 Kings 18. Either one of those verses. 1 Kings. Go to 1 Kings 19. 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 1. 1 Kings chapter 19 and verse 1. 1 Kings chapter 19 and verse 1. First Kings chapter 19, verse 1. And it says, Ahab told Isabel all that Yahweh had done, and how he had killed all the Nabiim with the sword. Then Isabel sent messengers to Yahweh, saying, so may the gods do to me, and more also, if I do not make your life as the life of one of them by this time tomorrow. He's like, I'll kill you tomorrow. He said, how do you know? He said, when you start to do the will of Yahuwah, and you have a woman who said he's going to take you out. Right? Then he was afraid, and he arose and ran for his life. They said, oh, you running? What you doing? And he said he ran for his life and came to Beersheba, which belongs to Yehuda, and left his servants there. He said he left his servants there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under the broom tree. And he asked that he might die, saying, it is enough now. O Yahuwah, take my life, take away my life. He said, I sat under the tree. He said, man, please, Yahuwah, take my life, for I am no better than my fathers. And he lay down and slept under the broom tree, and behold, and Malak touched him and said, arise and eat. He said, arise and eat. You know, that's what Pa means. This day is the 17th day of the, he said, this is the 17th day of the Abyb, right? And he's saying, arise and eat, because that's what Pa means. It means your mouth, to eat. Open your mouth, to receive. It means to open your mouth and eat. And he looked, and behold, there was at his head a cake baked on hot stones. Huh? Oh, what kind of cake you think that was? And it was baked on hot stones. What type of bread, matzah, you think? What type of bread you think? And he saw a cake baked on hot stones and a jar of water. Huh? People say, what do you mean by that? It's Chag Matsah. He said unleavened bread. Think about it, if he would have never, he said, you know, forget unleavened bread. Chag Matsah is only during this time. You know, get that. The rest of the year it don't matter. He said, rise and get water. And he ate and drank and lay down again. And the Malak of Yahuwah came again a second time and touched him and said, arise and eat. He said, arise and eat. For the journey is too great for you. See, people thinking like, what type of food he had? He said, it's too long for you. You're going to have to eat this. You know why you got to eat this lakan? He said, it's too right. And he arose and ate and drank and went into the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights. And people say, oh, what you mean by that? He said he went into the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights to the Mount of Yahuwah. 40 days and 40 nights. He ate the lakan. Isn't that amazing? Right? But it said right here, verse 9, there he came to a cave and lodged in it, and behold, the word of Yahuwah came to him. Has the word of Yahuwah come to you yet? He said, it came to him, and he said to him, what are you doing here, all Yahoo? And he said, I have been very jealous for Yahuwah, the Elohim of hosts, for the people of Yashral have forsaken your covenant. They broke the covenant. They were my familiar friends. He said, they were my familiar friends. He said, throw down your altars and kill your Nabi'im with the sword, and even I am left alone, and they seek my life to take it away. And Yahuwah said, go out and stand on the mountain before Yahuwah. And behold, Yahuwah passed by, and a great strong wind tore the mountains and broke into pieces the rocks before Yahuwah, but Yahuwah was not in the wind. and after the wind, an earthquake. But Yahuwah was not in the earthquake, and after the earthquake, a fire. But Yahuwah was not in the fire, and after the fire, the sound of a low whisper. He said his word was like smooth as butter. Man, it was smooth. It was very, very smooth. But guess what it said? And when Aydah heard it, he wrapped his face in a cloak and went out, but it was like drawn swords. And he stood at the entrance of the cave, and behold, there came a voice to him and said, "What are you doing here, O Yahoo?" And his voice like drawn swords. And he said, "I have been very jealous for Yahuwah, the Elohim of hosts, for the people of Yasharah have forsaken your bereaved, thrown down your altars and killed your Nabi'im with the sword, and I, even I, am only left, and they seek my life to take it away." And Yahuwah said to him, "Go, return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus. When you arrive, you shall anoint Hazael king over Assyria." He said, why he gonna go anoint a king of Assyria? And Yahu, the son of Nimshi, you shall anoint the king over Yasharah. And Elisha, the son of Shaphat, Abel Meol, you shall anoint to be Nabi in your place. You see how fast you will work? He like, I'm gonna get rid of it. He said, I'm gonna put somebody in your place. He said, what? He said, I'll put somebody in your place. He said, what? He said, I'm gonna put somebody in your place. You gonna anoint this person in Yasharah, and I'll just put somebody in your place. And then he said, and the one who escapes from the sword of Hazael shall return he said, shall Yahu put to death. And the one who escapes from the sword of Yahu shall Eliashah put to death. Yet I will leave 7,000 in Yasharah, and all knees have not bowed to Baal, and every mouth that has not kissed him. He said, I'll just do that. I am only left alone. Please. He said, go anoint this person, king of Assyria, go anoint Yasharah, and then anoint Eliashah to be Malach in your place. And you know what I'm going to do after that? He said, to replace you. Right? That's how fast he worked. Right? But at the same time, this is the book of Hebrews chapter 4. Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 1. The book of Hebrews, chapter 4, verse 1. Therefore, while the promise entering into his rest still stands, it still stands. And get what it says? Let us fear lest anyone should seem to have failed to reach it. Because a lot of people think that he said, I'm going to get in. He says, no, you don't want to fail to reach this. For good news came to us just as to them. But the message they heard did not benefit them because they did not unified by Amunah with those who listened. You say the people that's listening are not. He say they're not unifying themselves with Amunah, right? For we have believed to enter into that rest, and he said, "As I swore in my wrath, they shall not enter my rest, although his works were finished before the foundation of the world. For he has some were spoken of the seventh day. In this way, Elohim rested the seventh day from all his work that he had done." He said works, and again in this passage he said, "They shall not enter my rest." Since therefore it remains for some to enter, and those who formerly received the good news failed to enter because of disobedience. He said because of disobedience, right? Going to verse 11. Let us therefore strive to enter that rest, so that no one may fall by the same sort of disobedience. For the word of Yahuwah Elohim is living and active. It's smoother than butter. Matter of fact, it is sharper than any two-edged sword. It's like drawn swords, piercing to the division of soul and ruach, and the joint and the marrow, and discerning the thoughts and the intentions of the heart. And no creature is hidden from his sight, but all are naked and exposed to his eyes. To him, he can see you, just like David we just read in Psalm 55. He said, oppression and fraud is in their heart, and strife. He said, I can see you. To whom we must give an account. He said, you're gonna give an account, right? He said he's gonna give an account, right? So this is the book of Yeah, this is the book of Proverbs chapter 31. Mashali Proverbs chapter 31. Mashali Proverbs chapter 31. Proverbs chapter 31 verse 1. Actually, Mashali Proverbs chapter Proverbs chapter 31 and verse 1. It says the words of King Lemuel, an oracle that his mother taught him. He said his mother. That's why we talked about Qahalath, female assembler. We talked about all these things that people claim, but he's literally trying to show you something. And he says right here, an oracle his mother taught him. What are you doing, my son? What are you doing, son of my womb? What are you doing, son of my vows? Do you not give your strength to women, your ways to those who destroy kings? Because you know Yahushua is building a kingdom. He said, upon this rock I'm going to build my kingdom. My Malkuth. He said, it's going to be Malak and Malkas. He said, I'm going to build my king. It is not for kings, it is not for kings to drink wine or rulers to take strong drink, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed. That's how people forget. How do men and women forget? He said, how are you forgetting what Yahushua already said? Right? He said, stay dressed for action. Didn't he say that? He said, how you forget all that fast? He said, you're supposed to be stay dressed for action. This is Matthew chapter 13, verse 21. Yet he has, Matthew 13, 21. Yet he has no root in himself, but endures for a while, and when tribulation and persecution arises on account of the bar, immediately he falls away. That's what happened to Aydah. That's what happened to him. He was so zealous. I was zealous for your name. But as soon as persecution arises, you see what Aydah did? And you know what? Guess what happened after that? Yahushua like, go anoint this person, go anoint that person. That's what men and women do today. He said, go anoint this person, go anoint that person. Matter of fact, anoint this person to replace you. That's how fast it happens. And it says 22, as for what was sown among thorns, this is one who hears the bar, but the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word. You'd be like that person who choked out that servant whom you're supposed to forgive if they dead. Choke the word, and it proves unfruitful. Then all your fruits, that woman was at the feet, and she anointed that man's feet, and she did all that. She anointed his feet with her tears, and she was so humble. They say, oh, so humble, so this and that on Pesach, or they say on the Passover, or just like any of these days, and then guess what? Then they turn right back into the same person they were before. And they lose all their fruits. Then it becomes unfruitful, because they're not going to continue through the whole year. They're only going to do it for one day, and then they stop. They're not going to continue for a full 364 days. They prove unfruitful. As for what was sown among good soil, this is one who hears the word and understands it. He indeed bears fruit and yields, in one case, 100-fold, in another 60, and another 30. That means they continue to do it through the whole year. It's not something they continue to do it from the first day all the way to the end, from Pesach all the way to the end of the year. Their 7 eyes are open. They equal 30-fold, 60-fold, and 90-fold. You continue to be fruitful and multiply. But if you stop, because the persecution of the bar, because you hear something you don't like, or you got to do something you don't want to do, then guess what happens? Yahuwah said, I'll replace you. Right, that's how fast he moves, right? And going back to Hebrews chapter 13. Going back to Hebrews. Going back to Hebrews chapter 13, verse 1. You're going to Hebrews, I see now. Going back to, sorry. What's my train of thought. Yeah, I hate that when that happens. Right, so this is the book of, going back to Hebrews chapter 4. Going to Hebrews chapter 4. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 11. Hebrews 4 and 11. It says, let us therefore strive to enter into that rest, so that no one may fall into the same sort of disobedience. For the word of Yahuwah is living and active, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing the division of soul and ruach, of the joints and marrow, and discerning the thoughts and the intentions of the heart. And no creature is hidden from his sight, but all are naked and exposed before him, to whom we must give an account. Right? We all got to give an account for this. Right? So why did he say that? Going to Proverbs 31 again. Going to Proverbs chapter 31. Proverbs chapter 31 and verse 6. Actually, yeah. Proverbs chapter 31 and verse 3. It says, do not give your strength to women, nor your ways to those who destroy kings. It is not for kings, O Lumeria, not for kings to drink wine, or for rulers to drink strong drink, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed, and you forget it, and pervert the rights of the afflicted, because we're supposed to rescue the afflicted and oppressed. He said, why? Right, this is the book of Psalms, chapter 82. Psalms Tahalim, chapter 82, and verse 1. Psalms 82 and 1. It says right here, Tahalim, Psalms 82 and 1. Elohim has taken his place in the divine council, and in the midst of the gods, the Elohim, he holds judgment. The gods. Is it not written in your Torah, said you are gods, your Elohim? And if I called you Elohim, whom the word of Yahuwah came, the word of Yahuwah come to you. So he said, you can't change it. He said, I want to be lesser. I don't want to be that. He said, guess what? He was like, I can't change my debar, because the Kadashim gonna judge the world. Right? Verse 2 says, how long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? How long you gonna keep doing that? He says, give justice to the weak and the fatherless. He said, let the weak stand strong. Because of you, Elohim, let the weak say I'm strong. And he says, deliver them from the hand of the wicked, because they people wicked. That's the only reason they're attacking you. He said, why? Because they're wicked. That's it. Because they're wicked. And it says, they have neither knowledge or understanding. They don't know. They don't have no binah hakma da'ah. It says, they walk about in darkness. Their eyes are closed. They can't see in the dark. They don't have the El-Arab. They're not iron. Their iron not open like a bar, like their iron. They can't see. And it says, all the foundations of the earth are shaken. I said you are gods, the sons of the Most High Yahuwah, all of you. Nevertheless, like one prince you shall die and fall like any other prince, right? That's why. Going back to Proverbs chapter 31. Proverbs chapter 31. Mostly Proverbs chapter 31, verse 6. Give strong drink to one who is, it says going to, 5. Lest they drink and forget what has been decreed and pervert the rights of the afflicted. Give strong drink to the one who is perishing. He said, give it to somebody who's getting ready to perish. And wine to those who are bitter distress. Let them drink and forget their poverty. Because that's why a lot of people got these behaviors inside of them. That's why a woman gonna want to be a man and a man want to be a woman. That's the reason. Because they grew up in poverty. They've been chasing money their whole life. They've been chasing currency their whole life. They get money and they go broke. Right? Then they act like a man. Because they got to go get it. That's what women do. Why? Because when you start to rebel against your father's supposed to provide for you. Your father and your husband supposed to provide for you your whole life. So therefore, when you start to do things opposite, you turn into a man. You start to act like one. And then people say, why? Because then you got to go do what they do. It's always been that way. In Yasharal, but it said right here, let them drink and forget their poverty and remember their misery no more. He said, remember their misery, because that's what it is. It's misery. That's misery. Why you think Yahushua had to drink the wine at the 9th hour? He was forgetting his misery no more, all the stuff he went through. because he's getting ready to perish. And guess what happened? Open your mouth, it says right here, it says, open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of those who are destitute. Why do you think Yahushua Mashiach didn't open his mouth? He said, open your mouth for the mute man, because Yahushua was mute. He said, why am I speaking? He said, I'm speaking for the people who are weak. I'm speaking for the people who are oppressed by other things, other beings, the powers of the stomach. I'm speaking for those people. Why? Because those are the people that are in need of Yahuwah. Those are the people Yahuwah looking for, who will build him a house. And it said right here, open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and the needy. He said, defend the rights of the poor and the needy. An excellent wife, who can find? He says, well, after all that, who was he comparing this to? He said, an excellent wife, who can find? How are you going to do that when you're drunk? How are you going to do that when you're forgetting what's decreed? How are you going to do that when you're so busy getting drunk, trying to forget your poverty and all the things that you lost and destitute? How are you going to do that? How are you going to find one? Right? An excellent wife, who can find? See, how are you going to do that? Because his mother, how you say, her Qahalath, her lecture, was all based upon him not getting drunk, not being, he say, defending people and oppressing the needy. He said, not forgetting what's decreed, so you can find somebody that actually fits you. You can't do that when you're drunk. You can't do that when you're drinking. You can't do that when you're destitute. You can't do that when you're poor. You can't do that when you're needy. You can't do that when you're ready to perish. You can't do that. How you going to do that? He said, an excellent wife, who can find? She is far more precious than jewels. He said, it's more precious than agate. Hematite is more precious than sapphire. It's more precious than all that. It's more precious than all the 12 stones. And it says right here, the heart of her husband trusts in her. He said he trusts her husband, trust in him. When Yahuwah married Yashar and Yehuda, he's like, look at whom you laid with. And he said, didn't I give you the bill of divorce? Because he said, I couldn't trust you. In Jeremiah chapter 9, he said, that was treacherous sister. But then he said, return to me. I said, I thought she would return to me after they done did her wrong, but for some reason, she didn't come back. And he will have lack of, and he says, the heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will lack. And you will have no lack of gain. He said he ain't gonna have no lack of gain. He ain't gonna be poor and destitute, ready to perish. He said he not. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. He said she ain't gonna do him harm all the days of her life. Why? Because the law of Turah says she's supposed to fear her husband. Matter of fact, if a man was beating her, she's supposed to do everything she can, supposed to get him off. And guess what happens? She seeks wool and flax and works willingly with her hands, with her right hand. How you say her hands, her yad, her kaf. The 10th letter and the 11th letter of the alphabet. She works willingly with her hands. And guess what happens? She is like the ship. She is like the ship of the merchants. She brings her food from afar. She'll go from one place to another place, go get it, and then bring it back. She'll bring it from way a long way. Why do you think Yahushua said, I'm the bread which came down from Shamayim, the Lakam? He came all the way from the height of Shamayim down to the earth. And you know what that was? That he was bringing his food from afar. So if you do this, he said, you in the image and likeness of his son. You just like him. That's why he says some bear 60-fold, 20, 30-fold, 60-fold, 100-fold. Some people don't. And guess what it says? She would bring, and she said she worked willing hand. She is like the ship of the merchant. She brings her food from afar. She rises while it is yet night. She said, man, she get up while it is yet night. She gets up while it is yet night. Why? And provides food for her household and portions for her maiden. She's making food before the sun rises. Because when you're in a type of, he and a king, he says king, Lumeria, which means he has a kingdom. And in that kingdom, he has a bunch of people. And this woman's getting up, and she's already up early in the morning, already making things just so everybody can have food when they wake out in the morning. Because that's a lot of people that have to eat. Right? And guess what it says? She considers, and get what it says, private household and portions of main. She considers a field and buys it. She buys it. Why? What's she buying the field for? With the fruit of her hands, here we go, her 10th letter of the alphabet and her 11th letter of the alphabet. She plants a vineyard. That's the only reason she's doing it. You know why? Because she got to cook. She got to make food for the maidens of the household. So she's like, I'm only doing this so I can have more fresh food and fruits and vegetables and healthy food so nobody won't get sick. That's the only reason she's doing it. And then, get what it says. She dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong. Right? Because when you start to do all that, your arms gonna get strong. When you get a shovel and you start putting it in the ground, when you start picking things up, when you start doing that, your arms gonna get strong. That's why she gets that. She dresses herself with strength. Let the weak say I'm strong. Let the weak say I'm a warrior. That's what he's literally saying. Let the weak say I'm strong, because Yahuwah is the life of the son is the life of the house, and the son and the father is the strength of the house. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night. Because you know why? Because her near ain't going out. Her 7 eyes ain't going out. Her eyes are still lit. Her menorah is not been put out. You know how I say 5 are wise and 5 are foolish? 5 had their lamps continually burning, their menorah, and the other one didn't. And he said, I had 10 virgins. 5 were wise and 5 were foolish. The menorah were burning, but for some reason the other one didn't. And he said, go to them who buy. Because, and amazingly, that woman who was selling that oil needed to pay off her debt. And you're going to help somebody get a good deed, and then you go plant a vineyard, then you start to do what a Kayil woman does. And then guess what? You now have your menorah burning again. He said, because your lamp been put out. He said, let the lamp of the wicked going to be put out. And he says right here, her lamp doesn't go out by night. She puts her hand to the distaff, and her hands hold the spindle, which means she using her hands again. It's the 10th letter and the 11th letter of the alphabet again. Because you know why? Because he who holds the 7 stars in his right hand. He'd be just like him. She opens her hand to the poor. Notice how all these things. That's it. And amazingly, what does the 10th letter mean? Open right hand. Attainment, receive. Isn't that what? You know what the 10th letter of the alphabet? And when you're supposed to get the lamb, the sah, on the 10th day. When is atonement made? On the 10th day. How you going to make an atonement for your life? How you going to present yourself a willing sacrifice? How? How are you going to present yourself a willing sacrifice? Kudash and acceptable to Yahuwah when he said, you ain't done nothing with your hands. She opens her hand to the poor and reaches out her hand to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed in scarlet. They clothed in scarlet. Oh, you mean like, right? Take the blood and put it on your doorpost, on the top of your door, on the right and the left of the doorpost, and on your gates. Oh, you mean like Yahushua with a scarlet robe on. And it says she makes her bed coverings for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Oh, you mean like the hyssop? You dip in the blood and you put it on the side post of your house, on your side post and your 2 side posts, and on the top of your door. And you're supposed to do that to keep the powers of Mastama and the demons and the Shadim from coming inside of your body. That's how you keep the powers of Mastama and Al-Sabi and Al-Sabi and Al-Koros and Asmodeus out of your house. That's how you keep it out of your mind. By doing this, be ye doers of the word, not hearers only, deceiving yourself. He said that's how you keep it out of your heart. He said that's why you think he did this? Why do you think he did it like this? He said strike it on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. Make sure you put it there. And matter of fact, make sure you do it every day. And you know when the nighttime comes, make sure your lamp, the menorah, don't go out. It don't go out like this. He said, I ain't going out like this. You know how people say, I ain't going out like this. And you don't want to leave this world like that. Right? It says right here, her husband is known in the gates, And when he sits among the elders of the land, he said, he known. And guess what? She makes linen garments and sells them. She delivers sashes to the merchant. She goes and makes things, and she goes and makes things with her hands, and then she sells them. And then guess what it says? Strength and dignity are her clothing. It says that's her clothing. Strength and dignity. She's dressed like that. And guess what happens? And she laughs at the time to come. She laughs. What did Sarah do? When she said, you're going to have a child, this time next year, you're going to have a child. What happened to the woman? He said, Yasha asked her, what's going to be done for this woman who's done all this? What's going to be done for you? You doing all this stuff for other people. He said, what's going to be done for you? He said, you're going to have a child this time next year, spring. He said, you're going to have a child this time next year, spring. When her son died, he said, you're going to have a son. He said, you're going to have a child this time, spring. And guess what happens? And she opens her mouth with wisdom and teach. And guess what she says? Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. Right? She opens her mouth with hukmah, with wisdom. And the teaching of kindness, she showed much kindness. That woman that came at Yahushua's feet, and she bowed at his feet, and she wept with her tears. She wiped it. And she said, if you knew Yahushua who this woman was, she's a sinner. She ain't did none of this what the Kaya woman does. She a sinner. Man, she done lay with every man, every woman out here. You know what she did? He said, she a sinner. And you know what he said? She showed much kindness, much love, much. Ever since I came in, she just been kissing my feet. She been pouring oil on my head. She been weeping with her tears. She said, your Amunah has saved you. Your sins are forgiven. He says, my son, eat the honey. Why? My son and daughter, for wisdom is such to your soul. It's just like honey. It's just like honey. And guess what it says? And teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. How you say she don't eat the bread? She don't eat that lakam. You know what happens when you come Aydah? You get full. You know how you eat full? You get full and you deny Yahushua. Because you eat the bread of lakam, you eat it in excess, you've been up going to sleep, and you ain't going to wake up when the morning time comes, and guess what? You're going to be full, you're going to go to sleep, and you ain't going to be awake. And you know why? Barakah, he found so doing in second, third watch. Because you already know. Her manure don't go out at night. She going to sleep. And get what it says. Her children rise up and call her Barak. Her children rises up and call her Barak. Why? Because she done did all this before they arose. Before the sun even came up, she already gave them everything they need before the sun even rises. Before the sun rose up, she already was done. And when the children got out there, the children like, man, look at all this you did. They call you Barak, because she already was there. Her husband also and praises her because she's already given them everything they need before they even woke up. He's like, man, you already did this. The manure ain't go out, man. You already done all this already. And guess what he said? Many women have done excellently. Right, because everybody done it. But you surpass them all. He says, charm is deceitful, smooth speech. That word for charm, Proverbs 31 and 30. Proverbs 31 and 30. Proverbs 31 and 30. Proverbs 31 and 30. That word for charm, right? That word for charm is ken. He said khan. Khan. It means favor, grace, beauty, pleasant. Right? It says charm is deceitful and beauty is vain. Right? That word for beauty is your feet. It means beauty, right? And beauty is vain. Right? is vain, is empty. Habal is empty. But a woman that fear Yahuwah shall be praised. He says charm is deceitful and beauty is vain. All that outward stuff that people do. He says, but a woman who fears Yahuwah will do all that. Yareh Yahuwah. Ma'uz Bakar. How you say it? You know how David said this in Psalm 27? It said right here, give her fruit, give her of the fruit of her hands. Oh, he holds 7 stars in his right hand. Oh, you mean the seven fruits of the Ruach? Before you get gentleness and self-control? Kindness, ahab, joy, peace, patience, meekness, temperance, muna, gentleness, and self-control. Faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. That's the fruit of your hands. He holds 7 stars in his right hand. He said, do you have it? The 7 near, lit, manure. You hold the 7 stars, you hold the 7 fruit in your right hand. He says, do you have the 7 fruit in your right hand? He said, are you going to be like, oh, y'all, oh my gosh, she's coming to kill me. He's like, okay, I'll just replace you then. He says, charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears Yahuwah will be praised. Give her the fruit of her hand. That's why people going to get eternal life. He's going to see your 7 near, your 7 manure lit. You're going to be in the prison, in the pit, and Yahuwah's going to be like, no man can redeem. Who can redeem your soul? Your redemption of your soul is costly. He said, oh, I see your manure. I see the 7 stars. Who is that? The light doesn't shine in there, in the darkness. And he's going to take you out. And he's going to bring you in his kingdom. He said, give her the fruit of her hands and let her works praise her in the gate. He said, let her works. He said, what? He said, I'm going to show you my faith. He said, I'm going to show you my faith by my works. My amun. He said, so why would he do all of that? He said, her teaching is kindness. Her children rise up and call her Barak. All this. We're going to Bereshit, Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1, verse 3. Bereshit, Genesis chapter 1. Let's go to verse 9. Bereshit, Genesis chapter 1 and verse 9. It says, and Yahuwah Elohim said, let the waters under the Shamayim be gathered into one place, and let the dry land appear, right? Because he said she's going to buy a vineyard. You know what a vineyard is? That's where you plant things at. You need some dry land. You need some land. And it says right here, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And Elohim called the dry land earth. He called it earth, Adatz. And the waters he gathered together, he called seas, Yum. And Elohim saw that it was good. You know what the Kayur woman does? And he says, and Elohim said, let the earth sprout vegetation plants yielding seed. You know, he said she buys a vineyard and she plants in her vineyard. And she will provide fruit for her household. She did all that. Yielding seed, fruit trees bearing fruit in which is their seed. This is before he even, Bereshit chapter the 6th day, when he told Adam and he baraked him. This is before that. She did this before the 6th day of creation. This is before the 6th day. And he said, man, why they woke up and called her Barak? Because she did it before. Why do you think Yahuwah said, and Yahuwah baraked his children? Because he did it before they even got put in it. Before they even partook of it. Because she already provided it before. So therefore, he called her Barak. And he said, the children call you Barak. And the husband does too. And it said right here, and he says, it says, each according to his kind on the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth vegetation plants, yielding seed according to their own kinds. And the trees bearing fruit, which is their seed, each according to its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning the 3rd day, evening and morning. He said her lamp don't go out by night. Her menorah don't go out by night. Evening. He said by the time the sun rises, she already done provided the food for her husband, and they wake and they call her Barak. Matter of fact, the children call her Barak and the husband call her Barak. All at the same time. People say, why you can't get rid of masculine and feminine, male and female? You can't get rid of that. You get rid of that, you get rid of the very creation itself. Because even the masculine, the feminine earth has to take in the seed to produce the very things that you need, the fruits that you need to produce within yourself. You know how the fruits of the Ruach, how you gonna get fruits without the feminine? You need both. You can't do that. You can't. Because if you do, you literally omit the whole thing. And he said, ain't no salvation for you. You're going to be hungry. You're going to have need of gain. You're going to be lacking gain. You're going to be a poverty, destitute, you're drunk, you hope to die. And people say, why Yahushua was on the cross? Totality. Because you see the type of woman he married? That's why he was hoping to get some wine to leave. He's like, man, let me get some wine. Let me get up out of here. He was ready to go. He said, Yahuwah, I kept these in your word. Just get me out of here. He ready to go. Because you know why? Because he realized this type woman, he said, it's not for king to drink strong wine. He imagine what they call Yahushua, a wine bibber. They call him a wine bibber, a friend of publicans and sinners. They like, what you doing over there? He like, man, I could have just, he's like, I want to go. Right, but what happened though, right? And that all happened on the third day, right? So this is the book of Matthew, chapter 27, verse 1. Actually, Matthew Yahoo, chapter 28, verse 1. Matthew Yahoo, chapter 28, verse 1. Matthew Yahoo, chapter 28, verse 1. Now after the Shabbat, after the Shabbat, toward the dawn of the first day of the week, he said, why do you get to the first day of the week? He said, how you go from the first day of Chag Matsah, when they rested according to the commandment, and then it says now it's dawning toward. It says as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week. What happens after the seventh day? The first day. Right. So this is the book of Hosea. The reason I'm doing this, I'm going real quick. Right, this is the book of Hosea. The book of Hosea. This is the book of Hosea, chapter 4, I believe. Hosea, chapter 4. This is the book of Hosea. Hosea, chapter 6. Hosea, chapter 6, verse 1. Hosea, chapter 6, verse 1. Hosea, chapter 6, verse 1. It says, come, let us return to Yahuwah. For he has torn us, that he may heal us. You know how when Jeroboam and Rehoboam, and he said, I'm going to tear the kingdom from you, and I'm going to take 10 tribes and give them Jeroboam and Rehoboam, I'm going to give the other tribes too. He said, let us return to Yahuwah. Because remember, only a remnant going to return. Those are the children of Yashral via the sand of the sea. Only a remnant going to return. Come, let us return to Yahuwah, for he has torn us, that he may heal us. He has struck us down, and he will bind us up. Bind us up for what? After 2 days, he will revive us. What do you mean after 2 days? What do you mean after 2 days? It says, and on the third day, he will raise us up. What happened on the third day of creation? All the plants yielding seed after its kind came up. What do you mean after 2 days? He's going to revive us, that we may live before him. That word for Hosea chapter 6. We almost finished. Hosea chapter 6. Hosea chapter 6 in verse 2, that word for revive is kaya. Kaya. And amazingly, kaya has a ha at the end. That's feminine. How else are you going to get up? How are you going to get up from the ground without the feminine? How are you going to raise from the dead without the feminine? You can't. When the seed goes into the ground, it has to raise. You can't raise it up without the feminine nature. You can't. It can't even come up from the ground. It can't even rise from the grave. It can't even come from the soil, from the red clay, without the feminine. And it says right here, it says revive. It means to revive. He's going to revive us, to keep, make alive, to promise, to give, to promise, to live. He says in 2 days, He's gonna give us the promise. He's going to kaya. And the third day, He's going to raise us up. Let us press on to know Yahuwah. His going out is sure as the dawn. Didn't Yahushua, when he left, it was dawning toward evening after Pesach, and they were resting according to the Shabbat. And it says, and He will come to us as the showers, as the spring rains, and the waters of the earth. And he said, well, how you know when Yahushua was born? He's just like the spring rain. Right, going to Matthew chapter 28. Matthew chapter 28. Going to Matthew chapter 28, verse 1. Matthew chapter 28, verse 1. Now after the Shabbat, toward the dawn of the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene, it started to dawn toward the first day of the week. That's after Shabbat. Right, so you had the first day of Chag Matsah, right? The first day of Chag Matsah was a Shabbat. Then the second day was a Shabbat. Why? Because they had a weekly Shabbat, because the time sequence was like that. Because sometimes when you're on a different time sequence, when you understand the time sequence, you know you have a double Shabbat before you actually have a resurrection. It was a double Shabbat, right? And it says, now after the Shabbat, toward the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. Why? It was dawning toward the first day of the week, which means it was still night. Kayil woman, what? Her lamp don't go out by night. Her manure, it's a night of much watching. It was always a night of much watching. Anytime the sun go down, anytime it's Aydah, evening, morning, your lamp ain't supposed to go out. You talk about you can't get rid of the feminine. Your light is not supposed to go out. Your Aydah, right? And it says that Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb, and behold, there was a great earthquake. Yahuwah is not in the earthquake, though. He said, Yahweh said, Yahuwah in the earthquake. It says, and a malach of Yahuwah descended from Shamaim and came and rolled back the stone and sat on it, and he sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothing like white as snow. He said it was white as snow. And as for the fear of him, the guards trembled and became like dead men. And the malach said to the woman, He said to the Isha, you mean the feminine nature? Because you know, the Kayil woman, her lamp don't go out at night. Her 7 near is burning. He said the sun ain't even rise yet. The sun is getting ready to come up. It was getting ready to come up, right? Nighttime. And guess what it said? And this is the third day of Chag Matsah. And it said right here, his appearance is as lightning, and his clothes white as snow. As for the fear of him, the guards trembled and became like dead men. But the malach said to the woman, the feminine woman, do not be afraid. He said, do not be afraid, for I know that you seek Yahushua who was crucified. He's seeking who? That's the only reason she up early. That's the only reason her lamp ain't going out. Because you have one woman who did never forget what he said. Barak is he who finds her watching in the second and third watch. Because she was seeking him. You know how I was talking about? The adulterous woman seeks out the man she loved. She was seeking, I came out here to meet you. I came out here to meet you. And guess what? She was seeking him out. And you're not even knowing his appearance is as lightning and his clothing like white as snow. And it said right here, verse 5 said, and the malach said to her, the woman, do not be afraid, for I know that you seek Yahushua whom was crucified. He is not here, for he is risen. He said, this is before the sun even rose. Because you know what happens? When the third day come in? Third day comes in at night. Aydah. Third day comes in at nighttime. It's evening morning. That's what evening is when the day begins. Yahushua got up at night. On the third day of Chag Matsah, before the sun rose. On the third day. And this is the third day of Chag Matsah. Matter of fact, the sun has now risen. The sun has risen. And matter of fact, he risen at nighttime, because it started at night, at Aydah. And he said, Barak is he who finds so doing in the second and third watch. He said, if I find my servants in the second and third watch, Barak is he. Male and female. And guess what? He said, do not be afraid. And he said, come and see where he had laid. Then go quickly and tell the disciples that he has risen from the dead, and behold, he is gone before you in Galilee, and there you will see him. See, I have told you. So they departed quickly from the tomb with fear and great joy. A woman who fears Yahuwah shall be praised. Many charm is deceitful and beauty is fame, but a woman who fears Yahuwah shall be praised. Her lamp don't go out at night. She arrives before the sun rises, and she provides food for her household. Because it was Chag Matsah too. It's Chag Matsah, and she already in her mind, she needed to provide food for her household, because it's Chag Matsah. Why do you think they up? Why do you think they're up? Why do you think this pattern is in their heart? Because this pattern is their salvation. And she ended up seeing the sun. She ended up finding out information about the sun before a man even found it. Oh, you mean before? Because let the dry land appear, and let the fruits yield trees after its kind. He allowed the feminine nature of the earth to see the third day when he arose and understand it before the 12 disciples. Before the 12 Shalakim. And it says right here, then go quickly and tell his disciples that he has risen from the dead. So now you see lecture, how you say Qahalath. He said, go tell them. And you know what's going to happen to them? And behold, he is gone before in Galilee, and therefore go see him. See, I have told you. See, the Malak told her to do that. Because we all servants. And go what it says. So they departed quickly from the tomb with fear and joy. That's fruits of the Ruach. And it says, and they ran to tell the disciples. And behold, Yahushua met them and said, greetings. And they came up and took hold of what? And they came up and took hold of what? His feet. They took hold of his feet. He said, why they were at his feet? Because that's where their sins were forgiven at. When they bowing their head to the ground with tears, he said, that's how his sins got forgiven. Matter of fact, his feet, under his feet, it's like sapphire stones. You under his throne. They went in at his feet. He said, I ain't gonna do that. And worshiped him. They worshiped him. They were at his regard. Why do you think he told the disciples, if you understand all this, he said, go and do it. Be doers of the word, not hearers only, deceiving yourself. Then Yahushua said to them, do not be afraid. Go tell my brothers to go to Galilee, and there I will see them. He said, I will see them, right? Going to Luke, going to book of Mark, chapter, I think it's 15 and 1. Yeah. Going to Luke. Actually, go to Mark. Actually, no, let's not go there. Yeah. Mark chapter 16, verse 1. Mark chapter 16, verse 1. And when the Shabbat was passed, Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James, and Salome brought spices. Why? Because their lamp don't go out by night. Aydah, right? It's evening time. Their menorah does not go out by night. And it says right here, so they said so they might go anoint him. And very early on the first day of the week, after the second Shabbat that they had, when the sun had risen, what happened? When they went to the tomb and they were saying to one another, who will roll away the stone for us from the entrance of the tomb? And looking up, they saw the stone had been rolled back. And it was very large, right? These are all different accounts, but here we go. And entering the tomb, they saw a young man sitting on the throne, sitting on the right side, dressed in white robe, and they were alarmed. Right? Remember what did Boaz say to Ruth? Remember, these women fell at his feet. And what did Boaz say to Ruth? He said, you didn't go after the young man, did you? You weren't seeking the young man, did you? You weren't seeking that young man. He said, you weren't seeking the young man. He said, I'm gonna sell this in one day. Matter of fact, I'm gonna sell it this day. I'm gonna sell this day. And get what he said? Get what he said? And sitting on the right side, dressed in a white robe, and they were alarmed. And he said to them, do not be alarmed. You seek Yahusha of Nazareth. You ain't seeking the young man, are you? You ain't seeking that young man. You seeking Yahusha of Nazareth. And he says, who was crucified? He has risen and is not here. He gone. He not here. See the place where he laid him. But go tell the disciples, and that he is going before you to Galilee. Therefore, there you will see him, just as he told you. And they went out and fled from the tomb, for trembling and astonishment had seized them. And they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. Because he said, charm is deceitful and beauty is vain. But a woman who fears Yahuwah, she shall be praised. Because he only told them to tell the disciples. He didn't tell them to tell nobody else. Right? Right, verse 9. Now when he arose early on the first day of the week, right, they say, oh, the first day of the week. No, it was the first day of the week after a weekly Shabbat. That's what happens after the seventh day. You get a weekly Shabbat. So the first day of Chag Matsah was a Shabbat, and then it ended up falling on the seventh day, which, how you say, when the time sequences are aligned, it ended up being a what? Another Shabbat. And then after the Shabbat, the first day of the week comes in. That's what happens. This ain't got nothing, if you don't understand the first day to the seventh day, you ain't gonna understand it. Because it's all about the first 7 days of creation. Ain't talking about the first day of the week according to what people say today. It's the first day of the week according to the weekly Shabbat. Because we got a weekly Shabbat when the sun goes down right now. Right? It's the same thing. Right? When the time sequence is aligned, you have double Shabbat. It depends on what time it is and depends on what year it is. It depends. It all depends. You don't know. And it says right here, and he appeared the first day to Mary Magdalene, from whom he cast out 7 demons. He cast out 7 demons out of her 7 near that was plaguing her 7 near in her manure. That's why her lamp didn't go out by night no more. That's why she was up early in the morning, because she got the 7 demons out of her 7 near that were blocking her eyes so she cannot see in the nighttime when she was at Arab, and that's why she was up early in the morning. He said he done cast out them demons out of the 7 near. They were messing up her eyes, right? So that's why she couldn't watch. That's why they're up early, and she's now Kayil. And it says, she went and told those who had been with him, and they mourned and wept. But when they heard that he was alive and had been seen by her, they would not believe it. Because you know why? Because you know what Yahusha say? You know that woman a sinner. She was a former sinner. You saw the stuff she did? She had 7 demons. She had 7 demons in her. Why are we going to believe her? There might be another demon trying to deceive us. They ain't believe it. Why did they tell this woman to come here? He said, why he going to tell a woman to come to tell us before he tells us? Because before the earth even was, before Adam was even created, he allowed the feminine earth to actually produce a seed, to allow the tree to rise for seed, bearing fruit after its kind, before Adam was even created on the 6th day of creation. That's why. Because he's trying to show you the first 7 days of creation. Matter of fact, it was the first day after the Shabbat, and he also trying to show you, let there be light. Let there be order. And he ain't believing. Right, going to Luke chapter 23, Luke chapter 24, verse 1. Luke chapter 24, verse 1. But on the first day of the week, at early dawn, right, that's how you say that, they call it the golden hour, right? They went to the tomb taking the spices they had prepared. And they found the stone rolled away from the tomb, but when they went in, they did not find the body of Yahushua Mashiach. It says, while they were perplexed about this, behold, two men stood by them in dazzling apparel, and as they were frightened and bowed their faces to the ground, the men said to them, why do you seek the living among the dead? He said, why do you seek the living among the dead? You seeking somebody alive among the dead? He is not here, but he has risen. They said, he risen. He said, why are you seeking the living among the dead? You ain't supposed to lodge in no graveyard. You seeking living among the dead? He said, you ain't going to find nothing good there. If something alive among the dead, you're going to find a demon. Just like that man living by the tombs. And get what it says. Remember how he told you while he was still in Galilee, that the Son of Man, Adam, must be delivered into the hands of sinful men and be crucified, and on the third day arise. The third day of what? He was crucified on the 14th day in between the sons of Pesach. And then on the Chag Matsah they rested. And then the second day, the first day was Shabbat. The second day was Shabbat. The 2 days he's going to revive us. The week of the Shabbat fell on it. And then on the third day he rose at evening time. Because that's when the day begins. He rose at night. Aydah, evening, morning. He was already up. Because his lamp don't go out by night. He a watchman. And the women like lamp didn't go out by night. That's why they were up. And they went to the tomb early in the morning. And get what it says. He is not here, but has risen. Remember how he told you while he was in Galilee that the Son of Adam must be delivered into the hands of sinful men and be crucified, and on the third day arise. And they remembered his words. They what? They Zikron. They remembered what he said. They remembered what he said. Zakar Nakabah, right? That's what Zakar means. Let us make man in our own image, own likeness. Both male and female. Zakar Nakabah. They remembered. They remembered his words. And returning from the tomb, they told all these things to the 11 and to all the rest. Now it was Mary Magdalene and Johanna and Mary, the mother of James, and the other women with them, who told these things to the Shalakim. So he all women. He said, why are you giving it all women first? Because you first sowed a seed inside of a woman. Why do you think he spoke the words to them? They remembered his words, and then they sprung up, and then they went to go tell the disciples. Because you sowed a seed in a feminine first. And then the woman rise, right? The women rises up, and the children and the husband call her blessed, Barak. And guess what it says? But these words seem to be as idle tales, and they did not believe them. We don't believe what you said. We don't know. We don't believe. You're unbelieving, right? But it said right here, but Kaf rose and ran to the tomb. See, but Kaf, right? So Kaf, he heard what they said, so he went and go see for himself. Because Kaf had the keys to the Malkut. Kaf, the one who wept after he lied like 3 times in a row. The one he said who wept and cried after he lied, and he went and literally went and confessed his sins and repented. You talking about that Kaf, the one who had a broken and contrite heart, who was depressed. They were all weeping. The disciples were weeping, depressed, contrite. And he went, and guess what he said? Stooping and looking in, and he saw the linen cloth by themselves, and he went home marveling at what had happened. He said, what? We almost finished. Right, this is the book of John chapter 19, verse 1. There you go, John chapter 20, verse 1. So John chapter 20, verse 1. It says, now on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb early while it was still dark, right? The lamp don't go out at night. He said, why you keep repeating this over and over again? Of that. And saw that the stone that had been taken, saw that the stone had been taken away from the tomb. So she ran and went to Simon Kof. She said, I went to the man who got the keys to the kingdom. You know, upon this stone I'm going to build my kingdom. And other disciples, and the one whom Yahusha loved, the one whom Yahusha loved. And said to them, they have taken the master out of the tomb, and we do not know where they had laid him. Hold up. Now these other accounts had the account said he is risen. Then this one say something totally different. This one say something totally different. This one says something totally different. So what woman is this? Who said this? Who wrote this? He said, that's why people, when they read these books, they be like, yeah, you know. I say, that's the opposite of what the Malachi told them to tell the disciples. And they have taken the master out of the tomb, and we do not know where they laid him. Who is this? Who is this person that's talking? So Kof went out with his other disciples, and they were going toward the tomb, both of them running together. But the other disciple outran Kof and reached the tomb first. And stooping to look in, he saw the linen cloths lying there, but he did not go in. Then Simon Kof came following him and went into the tomb, and he saw the linen cloths lying there, and the face cloth which had been on Yahusha's head, not lying with the linen cloth, but folded in a place by itself. Then the other disciples who had reached the tomb first also went in and saw and believed. For as yet they did not understand the scripture. He said, you ain't understand it. He said, they ain't understand this. They ain't understand this. That when the person go in to make the offering for the people, and when he finished, he supposed to fold his linen cloth and put on his other garments. They ain't know that. They didn't know that how Qahalath was supposed to do that to make an atonement for the people. They didn't understand that. They didn't know he was making an atonement for them. They didn't understand that. But guess what? They do now. Then the other disciples who had reached the tomb first also went in and saw and believed. For as yet they didn't understand the scripture that he must rise from the dead. Then the disciples went back to their homes. They went back to their house. It was like on the third day, early in the morning. Like this, early in the morning, they went to the tomb. Imagine going to the tomb right now and going to see him and see if it's actually true or not, and seeing if what the women saying are true. And then you're not believing. They say, okay, we saw it, and now we go back to our house. Why? Because it's still Chag Matsah. It's still Chag Matsah. It's still Chag Matsah. It's still Feast of Unleavened Bread. It's still Feast of Unleavened Bread. He rose on the third day on Feast of Unleavened Bread. Chag Matsah. It's still Chag Matsah. But Mary stood weeping. Why? Because why she stood there weeping, crying? Outside the tomb. And as she wept, she stooped and looked in the tomb, and she saw two malachim in white. So when she said, they've taken away the body of Yahusha, they've taken his body away. That was before she saw him. It's before she saw all this. And amazingly, how many times she done went back to the tomb? So she went to the tomb about twice already. Now let's see. But Mary stood weeping outside the tomb, and as she wept, she looked in the tomb, and she saw two malachim in white, sitting where the body of Yahusha had lain, one at the head and one at the feet. Why didn't let Peter and them see it? Why didn't let Qahalath and them see it? Why? Because this is the woman that loves Yahushua more than Peter and Qahalath. This is the woman that loved him more. This is her. She loved much and showed much kindness and love. He said, your sins are forgiven you. This her. And get what it says. And she stooped to look in the tomb, and she saw the two Malachim in white sitting where the body of Yahushua was. What? The body of Yahushua, it says, it saw two Malachim in white sitting where the body of Yahushua had lain, one at the head and one at the feet. And they said to her, woman, why are you weeping? She said to him, they have taken away the master, and I do not know where they have laid him. Because she came to anoint his body with spices. And guess what happened? Having said this, she turned around and saw Yahushua standing. Huh? She turned around and saw him. How come you didn't do that to Qahalath and them? Peter and all the disciples, the Shalachim, and all these people. How come you didn't do it for them? How come? What makes this woman so special? What makes this woman so special that he would show himself to her first, and for everybody else? Why? What makes this person so special? He said, you got to ask yourself that question. What makes this woman so better than all the other ones? And get what it says. Having said this, she turned around and saw Yahushua standing there. But she did not know that it was Yahushua. She didn't know either. And Yahushua said to her, woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking? He said, who are you seeking? Who are you seeking? She said, I'm coming out to meet you. Out of Mary Magdalene went 7 demons, right? 7 of them. Her manure was out. She was in a zanah. How you say an adulterous woman? She was like that woman that you would call her a sinner above sinner. Matter of fact, she was like the adulterous woman who would go out to meet you, and her household leads Sheol. Her house will take you to hell. Sheol. She was opposite Kyle woman. But now here, she early in the morning, outside looking for Yahushua Mashiach. And she found who she was looking for, whom she loved. And amazing, she was a former, what people would call a sinner. And what he said. But she did not know that it was Yahushua, and Yahushua said to her, woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking? Supposing him to be the gardener. Are you the gardener? Because he said a Kayah woman plants a vineyard and produces fruits for her household. She may provide for her household. She said to him, sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him. Tell me where you put him at, and I will take him away. And Yahushua said to her, Mary, Marim. And she turned and said to him in Aramaic, Rabbani, which means teacher. Yahushua said to her, do not cling to me. Why he revealing to this woman first? Why not the disciples? Why not them? Here we go. We almost finished. Yahushua said to her, do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to my Father. He said, don't cling to me. Don't touch me. But go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my Elohim, your Elohim. And Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, I have seen the Master. Huh? I have seen the Master, and that he said these things to her. So she became his messenger. And amazingly, when she said, I have seen Yahushua, they ain't seen him. Not one of them saw her. He had to reveal it to the feminine first. It's just like when Yahushua said, by the word of Yahuwah, the Shamaim were made. Before the earth even was, before the sea got its decree, before Yahuwah even put a word in the earth, there was the earth, the feminine earth. And he had to sow his seed in the feminine earth in order to produce and everything else. In order for that to even produce, he had to sow the seed in the earth, just like he did on the 3rd day of creation. And it produces fruit after its kind. All that took place on the 3rd day. 2 days he revived us, and the third day he rose us up. The plant started to rise. Everything starts to come up. And he told it to her. Right? And when you start to look at that, you start to ask yourself, right? And this is where we're headed to. And on the evening of that day, the first day of the week, right, after the Shabbat, still Chag Matsah, the third day of Chag Matsah, but it's the first day of the week, or he said after a weekly Shabbat, but it's still Chag Matsah. On the evening of that day, the first day of the week, the doors being locked where the disciples were for the fear of the Yahudim. Why? Because they people still crazy. They still crazy today. Yasharal Yahudim, they crazy today. He's like, man, these people gonna come. Why they fearing them? Yahusha came and stood among them and said to them, Shalom be to you. Going to what? The fourth day of Chag Matsah. The fourth day of Chag Matsah will be the 18th day of the month, of the first month. All this is taking place at one time. You got the fourth day of Chag Matsah. You got the second day of the week coming in, and you got the 17th day of the first month. So you got to understand all this. And he said, peace be you. When he had said this, he showed them his hands. He showed him his hands and his side. Oh, you mean like the virtuous woman? The Kaya woman, you know, she provides food for her household. With her hands, she makes this, that. With her hands, she brings her food from afar. With her hands, she does all this with her hands. The Kaya woman did it with all her hands. The virtuous woman did it all with her hands. And he said, many have done excellently, but thou surpassest them all. His righteousness exceeded everybody. And it says the disciples were glad when they saw. It says he showed them his hands and his side. He showed them his yod, his 10th letter alphabet and his 11th letter alphabet. His cough and he made show him his cough and his yod, his open right hand and his cough. He showed him the 7 stars in his right hand, and he showed him his cough. You know, upon this rock I'm gonna build my church, build my kingdom. You know how you say? He coming to build his kingdom, his Malkuth. He said, your little building down the street ain't gonna cut it. He talking about, I'm gonna build my kingdom with my cough. You know how you say 10, 11. That's all Yahusha did, 10, 11. 10, 11. All he did simple math, 10, 11. And amazingly, 10, 11, what is 10, 11 equal to? He said 10, 11. He said 10, 11. And guess what he said? He said, because we didn't reach totality yet. Sign, signature, exit, 4 corners. We didn't get there yet. But he's trying to show you something. Because when you look at the 18th letter of the alphabet, he said, you look at all these things, right? Because this is happening on the 18th letter of the alphabet. We talking on the 17th, but at the same time, when we look at the pa, your mouth, your utterance, that's what happens. We almost finished. It says, then the disciples were glad, and when they saw the master, Yahusha said to them again, Shalom be to you. He said it twice. How many times he called all Yahoo out of his cave? Because they were fearing in the house, just like all Yahoo were fearing Isabel was coming to kill him. I am only and left alone. They were doing the same thing. They were doing the same thing. And guess what he said? And Yahusha said to them, again, Shalom to you. As the Father has sent me, so even I send you. And he sent, and after Yahuwah did that for all Yahoo in the mountain, when he was feeding Isabel, because he was getting ready to kill him, you know what happened after that? Yahuwah sent him out to go anoint some people. Matter of fact, he even sent some other people. He said, these people are going to replace you after you leave. This person going to replace you. And when he had said this, he breathed on them and said to them, receive the Kudash Ruach. He breathed on them, just like Adam, just like in the beginning. He did it on the 6th day. He breathed on them. This is darting toward, this is at the evening time on the 4th day. You know, on the 4th day of creation, let there be lights in the Shamayim. Let them be for signs, seasons, days, and years, and months. This is the 4th day. And let them be for Ma'or, he say, Gadol Ma'or, chandeliers in the earth, and Mim Shala. He did all that on the 4th day. And then he did the 6th day. And then he breathed on them and he said, receive the Ruach Kadah. And then he breathed into their nostrils, breathed into their nostrils. And man and woman became a living soul. And he created Adam in his own image and likeness. And then he said, then he did what? And when he had said this, he breathed on them and said, receive the Ruach HaKadosh. And if you forgive the sins of any, they are forgiven them. And if you withhold forgiveness from any, it is withheld. He's talking about everybody that's in there. Oh, it's male and female in that room. It ain't just the 12 Shalakim in that room. How you say it? Adam. All right, this is Luke chapter 24. This is the last thing. Luke chapter 24, verse 13. He says, that very day, that's this day. This day right now, 3rd day. And it says, 2 of them were going, 3rd day of Chag Matsah right here. They were going to the village named Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. You know how long it takes to walk 7 miles? People say, yeah, we good. You know how people say, yeah, in Jerusalem, you know how far these people used to have to walk? To go to that one place? And get what it says. And they were talking with each other, because you're going to have to talk. You're going to walk 7 miles without talking. Amazing, they walking on Chag Matsah. You know, when they came out of Mizraim, they walked out of Mizraim with their kneading troughs and their bread, and that's it. They did that during Chag Matsah. And amazingly, they walking. And get what it said. And they were talking with each other about all these things that happen. Sit in the house when you walk by, you lie down and rise up. This is what you're supposed to be talking about around this time, Chag Matsah. You're remembering his death and suffering till he come. And now you're remembering his resurrection. This is his resurrection. And while they were talking and discussing together, Yahushua himself drew near and went with them. What do you think going to happen? He said, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst. So if you're walking and you're on this day and you start talking about him, he's going to appear in the midst of you. He's going to appear in the midst of you. And he said, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him because they were still blind in their 7 eyes, they 7 near, Ereb. But the woman, Mary Magdalene, she knew him perfectly when he spoke. She knew him. She knew him before the man did. All the men, they were blind. Their 7 eyes were still closed. But the women, spiritual eye, her 7 eyes were open, and she knew. That's why you think the woman told Pilate, he said, have nothing to do with this just man. I've been tormented with dreams about this man. Right? She told him, Yahuwah told her before he told her husband. Right, but here we go. And it says, and recognize him. And he said to him, why is this conversation? He said to him, what is this conversation that you are holding with each other as you walk? He said, what are you talking about? And they stood still looking sad. Then one of them, named Cleophas, answered him, are you the only visitor in Jerusalem and do not know that these things that have happened there in these days? And he said to them, what things? And they said to him, concerning Yahushua of Nazareth, a man who was a Nabi, and they said he killed all the prophets. All Yahoo said that? They killed all your prophets, and I am left alone. Mighty indeed in word before Yahuwah Elohim and all the people. And how our chief priests, right? Our chief priests, our rulers, our chief priests, and our rulers, what do they do? Deliver him up to be condemned to death. Why do you think David said, we just read it, it's not an enemy who taunts me. It's not even hate me. He said, we took sweet counsel together. He said, we did all that. And get what he said, condemned to death and crucified him. They killed him. And get what he said, but we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Yasharal. He said, Boaz, he said, rise from your feet. He said, Boaz, he said, you're a redeemer. He said, if he don't redeem you, he said, I'm going to sell this in one day. If he don't redeem you, Boaz said, I will redeem you. But there's only one person who can redeem you. There's only one person that can redeem that woman, Ruth. There was only one person that could redeem Mary Magdalene. There's only one person that can redeem you. There's only one person. Boaz like, I can redeem you, but he got to redeem you first. If he don't redeem you, then I'll do it. But first and foremost, the master got to redeem you. Because you ain't my servant. You're Yahusha's servant. You're not my servant. Why do you think Shaul said, when they talk about circumcision, you trying to make somebody a servant to you? That's the only reason he was there. You trying to make them a servant to you. You don't want them to be servant to Yahushua Mashiach no more. Because all Yasharal, children of Yasharal, are Yahuwah's servants. And it said right here, that's why he was so upset about it. Right? But it said right here, we almost finished. And he said, what things? And he said to him, concerning Yahushua of Nazareth, and a man who was a Nabi, mighty indeed, and word before Yahuwah Elohim and all the people, and how our chief priests and rulers delivered him up to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Yasharal, yes. And besides all this, it is now the third day since these things happened. What third day? Third day of what? Chag Matsah. Feast of Unleavened Bread. He died during Pesach on the 14th day in between the suns. Then the 15th day came in. They rested according to the commandment. Then another Shabbat came in. That was a weekly Shabbat. And then the first day of the week came in after the 7th day. And then they said it's the third day since it happened. The third day starts at evening time. Not early in the morning. It starts at evening time. You know what I'm saying? He said the third day since these things happened. Moreover, some women of our company amazed us. Huh? The Ishas amazed us. The Isha. The women. Why? Because on the third day, he needed a feminine to sow the seed in order for it to produce seed at this time. Because without a woman, you can't understand the rest of this. There's no way. There's no way you can understand the rest of this. Without an Isha, without a woman. You can't. You omit the whole thing. You omit the whole thing. This is the last part. But we had, and it said right here, moreover, some women of the company amazed us, and they were at the tomb early in the morning, because their lamp ain't go out. Their manure ain't go out. And when they did not find his body, they came back saying that they had even seen the visions of Malachim. That was after. Right? Who said that he was alive. Who said that he was alive. Who said that he was alive. And we're going to see something right quick. Some of those who were with him were with us to the tomb and found it just as the woman had said. But him they did not see. He only showed himself to Mary Magdalene. He only showed it to one woman. Why he did that? And he said to them, O foolish ones, O fools, and slow of heart and mind, to believe all that the Nabiim have spoken. Was it not necessary that Mashiach should suffer these things and to enter in his kabod? And beginning at Mashah and all the Nabiim, he interpreted to them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. So they drew near to the village to which they were going, and he acted as if he were going further. He's going to keep talking. But they urged him strongly, saying, stay with us, for it is toward evening. And the day is now far spent. He's like, man, we've been walking 7 miles. You guess what happened after you walk 7 miles? You forget to eat unleavened bread, don't you? You forget. You be like, man, we ain't eat no Chag Matsah for the whole day. You know how it is. Man, we've been eating with you, and we forgot to eat bread before the sun go down. You know what Yahusha did? Let me show you what Yahusha did. Let me show you how he worked. But they urged him, saying, stay with us, for it is going toward evening, and the day is now far spent. So he went in to stay with them. And when he was at the table with them, he took bread and blessed and broke it, and gave it to them. And then what happened after that? And their eyes were open. You mean their 7 eyes were open? Their iron came back open. Them 7 near came back open. And guess what happened? And they recognized him. That's the only way you're going to recognize him. Your 7 near got to come on. Your 7 eyes got to come on. That's the only way you're going to see him. And they recognized him. And he vanished out of their sight. He was gone. He morphed right out of the room. And they said to each other, did not our hearts burn within us while he talked with us on the road, while he opened to us the scriptures? And they rose the same hour and returned to Jerusalem. And they found the 11 and those who were with him gathered together, saying, the master has risen indeed. Right? So now you got some more people he showed himself to. But he ain't telling the 12 disciples yet. You know what he had to do? I had to show you, when I rise, I speak to the bar. When I walk by the way, I speak to the bar. Right? When I lie down and when I rise up, now he getting ready to lay down. Now he going where they are. But he's just showing you how he works. Speak these words when you rise up, when you walk by the way. That's what he did. He spoke it to Mary Magdalene when he rise, when he walked by the way with these men, and guess what he getting ready to do now? And those who were with him gathered together, saying, the master has risen indeed, and has appeared to Car. They said Simon. Then they told what had happened on the road, and how he was known to them in breaking the bread, breaking Chag Matsah. That's how he was known. How you gonna know him? In breaking Chag Matsah bread, and eating bread through obedience through Chag Matsah, the Pesach. That's the true understanding. Because remember, Shaul said there are many types of Yahushas taught in the world. There are many Mashiachs, right? It all depends which one you have, right? Right, so this is the last thing. This is the last thing. And I'm going to show you something, right? This is the book of... Right, this is the book of Luke. I believe it is Luke. Sorry. Here we go. This is Matthew chapter 28, verse 11. Now you're going to see Satan, how Satan got in people's mind, and how things got canceled out by truth. This is Matthew 28 and 11. And while they were going, behold, some of the guards went into the city and told the chief priests all that had taken place, because they were there when all these things taking place. And guess what they said? And when they had assembled, right? When they had assembled with the elders, because what the people did when they wrote these books, they mixed all the words up in the accounts, and they didn't put the accounts in the right order. So therefore, the accounts are all over the place, because a lot of these things took place before Yahushua rose, because Yahushua rose before people came to the tomb. He arose before people came. It was when Yahushua was taken from the tomb. The 2 soldiers that were guarding the tomb were already there when he was risen. And I'm gonna show it to you. If you bear with me for one more second, and I'm gonna show it to you. They did this on purpose. It says, and while they were going, behold, some of the guards went into the city and told the chief priests and all that had taken place. And when they had assembled with the elders and taken counsel, they gathered a sufficient sum of money to the soldiers and said, tell people. So when you start telling people a lie, why do you think Mary Magdalene said, they came and stole away the body of Yahushua? Remember they said that? Tell the people his disciples came by night and stole him away while we were asleep, right? So that's all they did. They spread the rumor and the lie before everything even happened, right? That's why she went to the disciples and said, they stole away the body of Yahushua. Remember she said that? It was a lie. And it says, and if this comes to the governor's ears, we will satisfy him and keep you out of trouble. So they took the money and did as they were directed. And this story had been spread among the Yahudim to this day. They still did it. And you know what people do today? They still believe it to this day. Now you see what it did? It says, and this story has been spread among the Yahudim to this day. He said, why would he put that in there? You say, why would they put that in this story has been spread to the Yahudim this day? Because he said, the sentence doesn't end right. Right? Now how people say, the sentence does not end right. Right? Right, we're going to verse 16. And now the 11 disciples went to Galilee to the mountain to which Yahushua had directed them. And when they saw him, they worshipped him. But some doubted. And Yahushua came and said to them, all authority in Shamayim and earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, immersing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Qahalath Ruach. So now you can see how this book of Matthew, chapter 28, Matthew Yahoo, chapter 28, and these last verses were written from 11 to 16 were written after his resurrection. Right? This is written later on. All this is written later on. Right, here we go. And it says right here, when they saw him, they worshiped him. But some doubted. See how confusing this is? People say, what kind of story is this? We just went from this person to that person to this account to this account. Then you got this account. They stole him away. And then you got this account where he's on a mountaintop. And now he's telling them all authority that Shamayim was given to me. And talking about some still doubted. Right? They all doubted. And it says, go therefore and make disciples of all nations, immersing them in the name of Yahushua Mashiach. Right? Now they got all this other stuff. Teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you to the end of the age. Right? So you got all that taking place. All at one time. All these lies taking place. So I said, how you going to get rid of that? He said, how you going to do that? Right? How you going to discern that? Right? So this is the book of Acts. This is the last one. Man, stop. Man, I got to stop. I got to stop. Right. So this is the book of Acts. This is the book of Acts chapter 1 verse 6. Acts chapter 1 verse 6. As we go up, Acts chapter 1 verse 1. The first book of it says Theophilus, right? The first book of Theophilus, right? So there's a first book, then there's a second book, and a third book, right? The first book of Theophilus, I have dealt with all that Yahushua began to do and teach. He said, I've been writing this stuff, I've been accounting this stuff. Until the day when he was taken up. So he was there, like literally writing down everything he was doing. Until the day after he arose on the third day, when he appeared the fourth day, and he was walking around with him, he said, I was writing this stuff down. And you don't got those books either. You know the 40 days, the 49 days before you count, before Chag Matsah, you got them days you got those days where he was walking with his disciples, all the way from the last day of Chag Matsah, from waving the sheep to counting 49 days to Chag Matsah. You got them days. Well, there's a person here, he said he got them. And what he did. And you ain't got it. The only thing you got is the book of law with verse 11, and in that verse we just read, all the way to 28 in Matthew, but not even knowing that these books were written after the book of Acts. Yet, they were all written after the book of Acts. They were all written after the book of Acts. They were written, they should be in the book of Acts. All them books that you read, all of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John should be in the book of Acts. Because these are their eyewitness accounts during that time. Nobody was sitting there writing down. When Yahushua appeared on the fourth day of Chag Matsah, they had a book just sitting there writing down while he was sitting in the room. He morphed out the room. No, these are all the things they wrote after he left. And these are all the things that's in the book of Acts. It said, the first book of Theophilus, I have dealt with all that Yahushua began to do and teach until the day he was taken up, after he had given commands through the Qahalath Ruach to the Shalakim whom he had chosen, go into all the world and teach. That's how you know it was written in the book of Acts. That's how you know it was all written in there. That's how you know all those books belong in the book of Acts. That's how you know these books that you read in Matthew, Mark, they belong in the book of Acts of the Shalakim. They belong in what they belong. It belongs there. And they get what it said. And whom he had chosen, he presented himself alive. When he did that? After the 4th day. In the room. When the evening time came in. And he morphed out the room. He said, Shalom be. Matter of fact, he presented himself alive to Mary Magdalene and the men walking by the way before he presented himself to the Shalakim. And it said right here, to them after his suffering. By many proofs. That's why you know the book of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John belongs in the book of Acts. It's just their accounts, right? Appearing to them during the 40 days and speaking about the kingdom of Yahuwah. Why? Because you got 40, remember after the last Shabbat, right? After the Chag Matsah, then you have what? You got the weekly Shabbat, and you count 7 Shabbats toward the first day of Chag Shabuah, right? Remember, Yahushua was the living debar. He was operating in totality to the actual commandments. So everything he did was according to the commandments. And get what it says. He presented himself alive to them after his suffering by many proofs, appearing to them during the 40 days and speaking about the kingdom of Yahuwah. And while staying with them, he ordered them not to depart from Jerusalem. He ordered them not to depart from Jerusalem, but to wait for the promise of the Father, which he said, you heard from me, for you cannot immerse with water, but you will be immersed with the Kudash Ruach not many days from now. So after 40 days, we had 9 more days before the 50th day, before we get to Chag Shabuah. And on the 50th day, they got the Kudash Ruach. Because he said, he breathed on them and said, receive the Kudash Ruach. That's why he charged them to stay there until the 50th day. That's when they got Chag. That's when they got the Ruach. That's how you know the book of Matthew, when they read the last verse, all power is given me to Shamayim, go into all the world and receive, all these things and teach the truth. But you can't do that without the Ruach. That's how you know it all belongs in the book of Acts. It was all their accounts that belong in the book of Acts. Right, there wasn't no separate book. It was all the book of Acts. Right, and it said right here, But to wait for the promise of the Father, which he said, you have heard from me, for you cannot immerse with water, but you will be immersed in the Kudash Ruach not many days from now. So when they had come together, they asked him, Master, will you at this time restore the Malkuth of Shamayim, Malkuth to Yasharal, the kingdom? The kingdom. Upon this rock I'm going to build my kingdom. I'm going to build my kingdom. He said to them, it is not for you to know the times and the seasons. It ain't time for you to know that, these times and seasons. Because it's going to happen in the time and in the season. That the Father has fixed by his own authority. He fixed it. It's already in stamp. And it still ain't happened yet. But he still fixed it. But you will receive power. Power. When the Kudash Ruach has come upon you. And you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, and in all Yehuda, and Samaria, and to the end of the earth. And when he had said these things, as they were looking on, he was lifted up, and a cloud took him out of their sight. And while they were gazing into Shamayim as he went, behold, 2 men stood by them in white robes. Notice these things keep happening. He said, you see that? 2. And he said, men of Galilee, why do you stand together looking in Shamayim? This Yahusha, because you know what stands under his sapphire feet. What's under his sapphire feet? Men in white robes. He said, look at it. Why you standing looking at his sapphire feet? Because you know you under his feet. We under his feet. Now we're under his feet again. We're under his sapphire throne. That's how you know. And we at his feet. Shamayim is my throne, the earth is my footstool. He just did it right here again. Shamayim is my throne, the earth is my footstool. He just made y'all his footstool. That's why you're looking up at his feet. He said, why are you standing looking up? Looking into Shamayim. This Yahusha who was taken up to you, from you into Shamayim, will come in the same way you saw him go into Shamayim. So, were you there? Did you see how he went? So get ready to be amazed when he comes back. They say, what? He said, get ready to be amazed when he come back here. Because you ain't see it. We ain't never seen it. But he said, get ready to be amazed when he come back here. Now he say, Barak is he who finds so doing, who I come back and find you watching. Right, then they return Jerusalem from the Mount of Olives, which is near Jerusalem, a Shabbat day's journey. So here we go. A Shabbat day's journey. A Shabbat day's journey is 12 hours, right? A whole day is 12 hours in a day, right? So that means it's 12 hours from Jerusalem. So how far you think you can walk with 12 hours? They walked 7 miles when they were walking. Remember, they were walking 7 miles when they were walking with Yahusha, by the way. So how far you think the Mount of Olives is from Jerusalem? They ain't gonna show you a Mount of Olives and you believe it. And when they had entered, they went up to the upper room where they were staying. The upper room. They know where all y'all they had a rich person, they had a place for them to stay. And Qahalath and James, Yochanan and James and Andrew and Philip and Thomas and Bartholomew and Matthiyahu, James the son of Alphaeus, the Simon Zealot, Judas, son of James. Of course, you know these names ain't the real names, right? But they put it in here. All these, with one accord, were devoting themselves to prayer. Together with the women, together with the women. I told you it wasn't just men. It was those accounts that you saw when he said breathe and receive the ruach. It wasn't just men in that room. It were women in that room. And it says, together with the women and Mary, mother of Yahusha, and his brothers, they were all in the same room. And he said, in those days, Qahalath stood up among the brothers, the company of the persons. And he said a person was in all about 120. They put it in parentheses because we don't know. And said, brothers, the scripture has been fulfilled, had to be fulfilled, which the Kudash Ruach spoke beforehand by the mouth of David concerning Yehuda. We just read some of it. He said, man, if it was an enemy, we read it in Psalms 55. If it was an enemy, if it was somebody who hated me, I would have hit myself. But it was you, my familiar friend. We had sweet counsel together to the house of Yahuwah. It was you who became he said, it was you, my God. He said, it was you, my God, who became a guide to those who arrested Yahusha. He said, you guided these people to get me. You literally brought these people right to me. He's like, I'm going to give him up. I'm going to tell him exactly where he at. He's like, hold up. You guided these people to come and get me. This is where he live at. This is where he be going all the time. You guided these people to do it. And get what he did. He guided those to arrest Yahusha, for he was numbered among us and was allotted in his share in this ministry. We just read in the narrative of Yusuf, he said Judas was only there to catch him in the lie. So he was working for Caiaphas and the high priest the whole time. He was only there doing it. That's all he was doing for 2 years. But he said right here, we almost finished. Now this man acquired a field. For he was numbered among the ministry. Now this man acquired a field with the reward of his wickedness. Oh, you mean he supposed to be like a Kayul woman, but he bought the field and he planted it, right? He said, I'm going to plant me something. He said, but you know what Yahusha said? He said, this night your soul is going to be required. He said, this night your soul is going to be required. And get what he said? It says, now this man acquired a field in reward of his wickedness, and falling headlong, he burst open into the middle, and all his bowels gushed out. And it became known to all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, so that field was called in their own language Akel Dama, because you know Dam means blood. Akal dominant. You know what Akal means? Akel means food. Akel means food. Dam means blood, food of blood. Because you know we ain't supposed to eat blood of animals in flesh. He called it food of blood. That is field of blood, right? Because you know, with a field, that's where we got our food, our produce of the land. He said, field of blood. Now, this is what in Aramaic, you know, they say. A call down. Field of blood. Food of blood. Because that's what we're supposed to eat in the beginning, from the ground. That's why he allowed the plants to come from the ground on the third day. A called dumb. Food of blood. Food of blood. And we ain't supposed to eat blood. Yahushua said, eat my blood and drink my flesh. Because he was trying to get people to stop. For it is written in the book of Psalms. He said, we just read it. He said, what David wrote that for? But he was hot. May his camp become desolate, and let there be no one to dwell in it, and let another take his office. And now you see why Yahuwah was like to all Yahoo, let this person take your place. People say, what do you mean by that? He said, that's why you want to talk. Right? This is the book of Psalms, chapter 55. Going back there, and we go 2 more places and then we finish, and I promise. I promise. That's it. And it said right here, this Psalm 55 and 11. It says, for it is not an enemy who taunts me, then I could bear it. 55 and 12. It is not my adversary who deals insolently with me, then I could hide from him. But it is you, a man my equal, my companion, my familiar friend. We used to take sweet counsel together within Yahuwah's house. We walked in the throne. Let death steal over them, and let them go down to Sheol alive. For evil is in their dwelling places and in their heart. But I call to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah will save me. Evening and morning and noon I utter my complaint and moan, and he hears my voice, right? This is Psalms 109. Psalms 109 and 1. Psalms 109 and 1. Psalms 109 and 1. It says, be not silent, O Elohim of my praise, for the wicked and deceitful mouths are open against me, speaking against me with lying tongues. They encircle me with words of hate and attack me without a cause. Why do you think who just said in Yukonot 15, they hated me without a cause? Isn't that written in the Torah, they hated me without a cause? In return for my love, they accuse me. He said they accuse me. Yahushua gave you Barak and allowed you to see him on the totality, and he allowed the second and third watch to appear, and you sat there and you was watching. He found you watching. And he baraked you. He said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. And he forgave you for your sin. He said, in return for my love, they accuse me, but I give myself to prayer. Why do you think people were praying before they received the Kudash Ruach? So they reward me evil for good and hatred for my love. He gave me hatred. You know, they said, appoint a wicked man against him. Let an accuser stand at his right hand. And get what it says. When he is tried, let him come forward guilty. And let his prayer become counted as sin. That's what happened to Judas. That's why he said, field of blood. Food of blood. That's why they call it food of blood. They said they call the field food of blood. Because that's what you plant in the field. He said it's a food of blood. And get what it says. It says, may his days be few and may another take his office. That's why they're getting ready to pray, bringing another disciple. May his children be fatherless and his wife a widow, because he died. He hung himself. May his children wander about and beg, seeking food far from the ruins they inhabited. May the creditor seize all that he has. May the stranger plunder the fruits of his toil. Let there be none to extend kindness to him, nor any pity to his fatherless children. May his posterity be cut off. May his name be blotted out in the second generation. May iniquity of his fathers be remembered before. May the iniquity of his fathers be remembered before Yahuwah. And let not the sin of his mother be blotted out. Let them be before Yahuwah continually, that they may be cut off the memory of them of the earth. For he did not remember to do what? Now I talked about remember. They remember his words. Right? They remember his words. He did not remember to show kindness. That's the first fruit of the Ruach. That's the first fruit of the Ruach. But pursued the poor and the needy. That's what Judas did. Remember, he said this thing could be sold for much money, but he said Judas didn't care about the poor. And you know what he said? And the brokenhearted, to put them to death. Because Yahushua came to heal the brokenhearted. To set at liberty those who are captive. To open the eyes of the blind. And then the eyes are open, he broke bread. And the woman didn't know it was Yahushua. And he spoke the word and her eyes became open. Her onion became open. He loved to curse. Let curses come upon him. He said, you love to curse, right? You know, people read that. Oh, he cursing. 109 and 17. I gotta do it right now. 109 and 17. Psalms 109 17. Psalms 109 and 17. Psalms 109 and 17. Psalms 109 and 17. That word for curse. Psalms 109 and 17. That word for cursing is Qahalath, not Qahalath. 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 It means Qahalath. It means vilification. It means cursing. Right? So you say vilification. What does vilification mean? Because they put these big words in here, just like they mixed up all these books and these accounts, and they make you confused. But then you got to do all this work just to even get the real account. Vilification means abusively disparaging speech or writing. Right? So you think about gentleness, right? You think about gentleness, right? And then you think about self-control, right? That's all part of the fruits of the Ruach. But kindness is the start of it. So you get to the end, and you lose your faithfulness, you lose the rest, and then you get to gentleness, and self-control is no longer there. So then you'll be abusively disparaging speech or writings, right? So you'll be doing all of that. All that's a part of it. And it says vilification is when someone publicly targets a person, publicly, or a group of people by inciting hatred towards them. And then it says serious contempt for them, or severe ridicule of them because of their race, religion, and what they believe. They're Amunah. You know, we talked about different Amunah, like some servants do this, some servants do that. He said, who are you to judge somebody else? They're a race, right? And I'm not gonna. You talk about sexuality and gender, but that's all they added that, right? But in actuality, when you start looking at sexuality, we looking at masculine and feminine, because only a man's supposed to marry a woman, and a woman's supposed to marry a man. It ain't man with man and women with women. It never was. If a woman's a female, just like when they brought the female, she was a sinner. You say, you know what type of woman this is? This is a sinner, right? Trying to incite Yahushua to hate that woman because of who she was and what she was doing in her life. But then Yahushua said, why are you troubling the woman? Because that's what we do. He said, why are you troubling the woman? This woman showed much love and kindness. He said, her sins are forgiven. Why are you troubling the woman? Because you're trying to get me to hate the woman because she did some stuff wrong, like you. Like the scribes and the Pharisees that was sitting at the table. And Qahalath. Everybody who did them wrong. And get what it says. Or gender, that's female. That's why people, for some reason, you look at a feminine dissimilar. Or effeminate. You can't even get this without the feminine. You can't even understand what I just said without a woman. A woman is important. People say, oh, no, it ain't important. I say, okay, then you need to look at Yahushua Mashiach then. But then it says right here, or sexuality, right? So going to the end. This is the last part. It says, he loved to curse, let him curse. The cursing come upon him. He did not delight in baracking, blessing, may it be far from him. He clothed himself in cursing as his coat. May it soak into his body like water, like oil into his bones. He said, let it soak in his bones. Because the word of Yahuwah is sharp and powerful, quick and powerful, sharper than any two-edged sword, discerning of the thoughts and the intents of the heart, going to the joint and the marrow of the bones. And it says, may it be like a garment that he wraps around him, like a belt that puts on every day, like a belt. Isn't that what we put on during Pesach? You supposed to have your belt on when you leave Mizraim. You supposed to have our belt on tight, right? He said, may this be the reward of the accusers from Yahuwah, of those who speak evil against my life. Oh, so he said, Yahushua's like, those who speak evil against my life. Because you know why he said my life? Because Yahushua said, I've come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. What does Kuhua's name mean? Life giver. Her name means life giver, and she was made out of the rib of a man. And being that she was made out of the selah of a man, then guess what that means? That's his life. He said, that's my life. Because you know what? You know why the woman is his life? That's why he tells the man, husbands, love your wives as Mashiach loved the congregation. Why? Because that's my life. That is the actual life. Because no man ever hated his flesh. He said, that's my whole life. My life, it depends on that. Right? It says, but you, O Yahuwah, my Elohim, deal on my behalf for your name's sake. Because your steadfast love is good. Deliver me. Why do you think David was trying to restore his whole house together? Why do you think he asked for Michal? Why do you think he asked for all the stuff back? Why do you think he did that? People saying, why he did all that? When he was going through trying to get everything back to you, why do you think he was doing that? Why do you think David was doing that? You think he was just doing that for no reason? No, he wasn't doing that for no reason. It was for a reason. Get what he said, verse 22. For I am poor and needy. He's like, man, I ain't got nothing. He's like, I'm poor and needy, and my heart is stricken within me. I got a broken heart. He's like, I got a broken heart. I got a broken heart. And my heart is stricken within me. I am gone like a shadow at evening. I am shaken off like a locust. My knees are weak. He said, let the weak say I'm strong. He said, a woman that uncovered her husband in their trouble, he said, made feeble knees and a wounded heart. Why do you think he was saying that? Why do you think Yahushua was saying that? Why do you think he was saying that? And he says, though fasting, my body has become gaunt and no fat. I am an object of scorn to my accusers. When they see me, they wag their heads. He said they wag their heads, they shake their head. They're like, we don't hear nothing you got to say, Yahushua, no more. It's all on you. And get what he said. Help me, O Yahuwah, my Elohim. Save me according to your steadfast love. Let them know that it is your hand. You, O Yahuwah, have done it. He the one who did it. It says, let them curse. Because once they hear you getting cursed, then guess what? Yahushua like, let them curse you. Because that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. They're going to see your sin. They're going to see what you did wrong. And then guess what? They're going to curse you because of what you did wrong. And then guess not even knowing, when they start to curse you, guess what happened? Now they done wrong. All at the same time. And get what it says? Let them curse. You know what happens after that? He said, let them curse. But you will barak. He said, you're going to bless. You're going to barak though. And you know what else he said? They arise. You know when you rise in the morning, you know, when they rose in the morning, when the woman came. They arise and are put to shame. But your servant will be glad. So we are all servants. All the children of Yahshua are servants. And then it says, may my accusers be clothed with dishonor. Because this throne is supposed to be a throne of honor. May they be wrapped in their own shame as in a cloak. With my mouth I will give great thanks to Yahuwah. I will praise him in the midst of the throng, right? You say, why you keep repeating this word throng? What does that mean? Right? Because if you don't know what it means, then it's like, what's the point of saying it? This Psalms 103 and 30, this is the last thing. You gotta know it, right? It said right here, 103 and 30, that word for throng is multitude, or rob. It means abundant. It means captain, elder. It says enough, exceedingly great. So let me praise him in the midst of the great. For he stands at the right hand of the needy one. Because that's what he didn't do. He oppressed the poor and the needy. And he didn't remember to show kindness. And didn't even know that for he stands at the right hand of the needy one. So you stand at the right hand of the needy one. Who's at the right hand? He stands at the right hand of the needy one. He said, let Satan stand at his right hand and let him be condemned. But then the other person needs some forgiveness. The other person needs some love. The other person needs some kindness. Because that person did a whole bunch of stuff in their life. And that person was at their feet. And that person weeping. And he needed Yahusha. You know that woman needed Yahusha too. You know Qahalath needed Yahusha too after he lied 3 times in that same day, that same time too. He needed Yahusha too. He did wrong, and the woman did wrong. So everybody did wrong. So he they all needed him. And they're not even knowing Yahusha standing at his right hand. And he said, let him go down to Sheol. He I was talking about Judas. I wasn't talking about Qahalath and that woman, Mary Magdalene, that was on the floor, weeping and crying. Because they needed me. And he said, they still need me today. And he said, for he stands at the right hand of the needy one, to save him from those who condemn his soul to death. He said he stands at the right hand of these people, these 2 individuals, even other people who've done wrong in their life, because they need him to deliver their soul from death, because we need Yahusha to redeem us out of the pit. Why? Because when we go to death, he the only one to get us out. Who gonna get me out? Who gonna get me out? Who gonna get me out, right? This last thing popped in my mind. That's how it goes. It's popped in my mind. He stands at the right hand of those who need him, right? He stands at the right hand of those who need him, right? He stands at the right hand of those who need him, right? So here we go. This is the book of Matthew. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 12, verse 13. This is the last thing. And he went on from there and entered the synagogue. And a man was there with a withered hand. And they asked him, is it lawful to heal on the Shabbat? So that they might accuse him. Because he stands at the right hand of those who in need of him. And he said to them, which one of you who has a sheep, if he falls into the pit on the Shabbat, because that's where we're going to be at, everybody going to the pit. Everybody got to see death. You know, everybody trying to condemn people to death. But he said, we all going to see death. We all going to the pit. Who going to redeem your soul out of the pit? Who going to redeem? Your redemption of your soul is costly. Will not, it says, if he falls into the pit on the Shabbat, will he not take hold of it and lift it out? Huh? Will you not take hold of it and lift it out of the pit? Why do you think we waiting for Yahusha? He stands at the right hand of the needy one. He said, I need to be saved from the pit when I go down to Sheol, when I die. He said, that, you condemning me to death. He's like, I need him to get me out. And he says, oh, how much more value is the man than a sheep? He said, a man fall into the ditch. So it is lawful to do good on the Shabbat. Then he said to the man or woman, stretch out your hand. Because he stands at the right hand of those who need him, the needy person. And the man stretched it out, and it was restored, healthy like the other. But the Pharisees went out, conspired against him, and howled to destroy him. Because that's all they want to do. They want to destroy him. They want to condemn him to death. But he stands at the right hand of the needy. So we look at our hand, we look at our right hand, we look at our heart and our mind, and we look at Yahushua Mashiach, and not allow ourselves to walk after our own will and our own thoughts and our own mind, and not to live out there according to our own way. Because Yahuwah stands at the right hand of the needy one, the person who needs him. And he says, stretch out your right hand. And he told the man to stretch out the right hand, and he healed the right hand, and the scribes and the Pharisees conspired to put in him and destroy him. Knowing that conspiracy that they did, that conspiracy that happened was only for a moment. But he rose on the third day on Chag Matsah and gave us life and understanding within our inner man, our inner being, that we no longer live according to our old self, but our new self. And through his blood that he shed for us on the third day, when all the plants rose from the grave, I say the plants rose up and bore seed after its kind, he gave us life within ourselves. He gave us life within our heart. He gave us life within ourselves, that we no longer live according to the words of the slander, of the hatred, of jealousy, of envy, of gossip, of lying, and all the things that man throws at us, right? He said, just like he says, I stand at the right hand of the needy one, the person that needs me. Though man and woman, and male and female, great and small, have done evil in his sight, he says, you know what? If you need me, I'll heal your right hand, and your right hand will be healed. Is it not? It's good to do right on the Shabbat. He said, if your sheep fall into a pit, will you not lift your hand and lift them out? When we go to the pit and we go to death, we need Yahushua to come get us out of the grave. And the only way he's going to get us out of the grave, we're going to need him. I need him to redeem me from the grave. I don't want to go to the Sheol and be left there. No, I need him to get me out. And the only way he's going to get you out, you gotta be in such a need. Even though man condemn you to death and say you ain't going to get up. He said, man, just stretch out your hand. Let me see your hand again. Okay. You need me. Here you go. Let me lend you a helping hand, right? And guess what? Right, this is Aleph Yukanah 1, 224, 24 to 28. Let what you heard from the beginning abide in you. And if what you heard from the beginning abides in you, then you too will abide in the Son, the life of the house, and the Father, the strength of the house. So you look at the life of the house and the strength of the house. That's why Yahushua said, I'll come to you, might have life and have it more abundantly. That's what Kaya means. I'm gonna put life inside of you, just like Kuah in the beginning. That's why you can't get rid of the masculine and the feminine. The life of the house and the strength of the house. Because the Father is the strength of the house. He said, this is the promise he has made to us, eternal life. This is the promise. This is the utterance. This is the word, the bar. This is his fulfillment, the third day. He said, I write these things about those who are trying to deceive you. But the anointing you receive from him abides in you. You have no need that anyone should teach you. But as his anointing teaches you about everything, and it's true and it's not no lie, just as it has taught you, abide in him. And now little children. He said, well, we are. He said, my children, don't forget the teaching, commandment of your father and teaching of your mother. Oh. Don't forget the commandment of your father and the teaching of your mother. Both male and female. Like King Lumeria. He said, don't forget it. And why? Because he says, but as an anointing teaches you about everything, and it's true, it is no lie, just as it has taught you, abide in him. That's what he taught her. That's what he taught. That's what she taught. That's what Yahushua taught. That's what Mary Magdalene tried to tell the disciples. They tried to tell everybody. And now little children, abide in him, so that you, when he appears, we may have confidence and not shrink from him in shame at his coming. Why? Because those who are going to put to shame, just like David wrote, he said, let them be put to shame, let them be clothed in a cloak of shame. Why? Because when they were trying, he stands at the right hand of the needy. So when he stands at the right hand of the needy, you know what that means? That means the people that conspired around him when he was healing people, their right hand, he said, stretch out your hand. And he healed them on the Shabbat, and he gave him back his hand, and he gave him back his strength in his right hand. In his hands, his olive in his yod in his cuff. The scribes and the Pharisees and everybody and the chief priests were all conspiring to destroy him. So therefore, he said, let them be cloaked, be put to shame. Let them be clothed in it. So we look at ourselves, we look at our individual self. We look at Yahushua Mashiach, we look at the light of life. We look at his true light. On the third day of creation, when all the seeds were planted and everything rose from the grave, he said all the plants sprouted, dasher, uni seed after its kind. Knowing that he sold it in the feminine earth. He sold it inside of a feminine woman, and then he gave it to the man. Why? Because she provides food for her household. And the only way you can do that, you got to buy a field, a vineyard. And it's the only way you're going to be able to do it. And by doing so, he provided food for Adam and Kor, his children. Amazingly, right? And he told him, he baraked him, he said, be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth. Behold, I have given you every herb-yielding seed with food and for the animals. And it was so. And he gave it to him by the vineyard of a woman. And guess what the children did? He called him Barak. The children, and then he made Adam from the dust of the ground, the Adamah. And he called them Barak. He baraked him. He baraked them all. His children rise and call her blessed. Her husband does also. All this is all a part of a belief that's been hidden before the foundation of the world. And in the beginning, he did it. So just like he says, even his third day of Chag Matsah, as we now go toward the fourth day, knowing that the only way you're going to be able to inherit something like this is only through your kindness and your kindness and your love and your fruits that you bear. But just like it all things we look within ourselves, we look within our inner being, we look within our inner thoughts and our inner mind, and our inner understanding. And to know that our seven near must be lit in order to keep watch for Satan again. Because he's always looking for a way to take the understanding and the seeds out of your mind. And just like it is during the day, just like it will be again at night. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth.